Howdy, hackers, and welcome to another episode of FairLight TV. And I know you Amiga guys are longing for more Amiga material, and this is it. This is a almost pure Amiga instance of the show. This is an interview with Chucky, John Hertell, who is one of the leading experts on Amiga hardware. He's doing a lot of the recapping and fixes of broken Amigas here in Sweden and from far away, sending stuff to him. So if you would like to hear more on how to fix your Amiga and what you should do if you realize that there is an Amiga in your attic that you would like to start playing with, this is the episode for you. Over to Chucky. So, when real hardware isn't available, providing life support for the old is key, and one of the magicians keeping old, especially Amigas, alive is John Hertell, whom you know as Chucky. He has saved countless of machines, so we will now have a bit of a history lesson from John on his scene history, spanning over both C64 and predominantly Amiga. And then we will go into the real interesting part on how to save Amigas and what we will do if you find an Amiga in the attic and you want to start it. And you will have the expert's view on how to do that.
Yeah.
Welcome, John. How is life?
Thank you. Life is good. It's hot here, and well, everything is fine. Perfect.
Yeah, this was supposed to be a number of hours before, but you had mayhem at work, so we had to postpone this.
Working in IT, and this time it was not Strike. It was a different thing, but ironical during the same period of time.
Great. Thank you. So let's get back to, I mean, when you started your sort of scene career on the C64, I guess this was like 1986, so you were really early and you were called the Cracker.
Yeah.
So you started out actually on the C64. So as per my records, in 1986, you formed Scandinavian Cracking Service and you were the cracker of Scandinavian Cracking Service. Was that only you, or did you have any other members?
Actually, I had another member as well, Coke, but he was not that much. It was more than later in the gang, so it was basically was me.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And you started out with C64, and sort of within the scope of Scandinavian Cracking Service, you eventually drifted over to Amiga in like 88 or something like that.
87, 88, something. Yeah, quite early. Yeah. So I was not that active on C64. I made some crappy demos. I think they found some demos a while ago.
Yeah, much of demos were, I found them were text screens and you had, I guess, ripped music. And that was a thing back then. You ripped music and that was seen as at least semi-difficult. So
yeah.
And your first Amiga, was that an Amiga 1000 or did you wait until the 500 came out?
That was an Amiga 500, actually.
Okay. Cool. So, I mean, your key part here is your work within the group, The Gang. So you've been in the same group since 1989, The Gang.
87, actually.
Okay.
The gang started 87, but I don't think we released anything. But we started as a group in 87.
So there is a bit of, I mean, Demozoo and all of those sources could be a bit skewed sometimes, but they are sort of indicating that you released stuff under the handle Chucky. No, but you also released stuff under the Cracker in 1981. There is something called Gang Cracks where you are referenced as the Cracker. Is that a database error?
That might be true, yeah. Maybe I had that nicked by then. Yeah. I think it's quite true, yeah.
You had both at the same time, basically.
No, there was a change there. I can't remember exact date when the change was made, but what was Gang Tracks actually after the Cracker? Nah, it should be the Chucky. It should be Chucky.
Right. I mean, looking at the history, it looks like stuff has been released as Chucky early and Crack later. But I mean, could be database errors. Let's not dive into that. But there is something. I think that was the whichever it was. It says The Gang and Mokba TV. One of your really early. No, I mean the screen on Demosu says Chucky from The Gang and Mokba TV.
Now there must be some mix-up. It's not that unusual that there are mix-ups.
Let's see. The Seika Datamaker 1.1. So in 1988 by the Cracker of the Gam and Mokba TV. Oh, the Mokba TV could be another guy, right?
Yeah, I think they maybe patched the code or something.
Okay, taken your stuff and then made a 1. So you did the 1.0 version and they did the 1.1.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Now we clarify that. Looking at the sort of member ranks, I noticed one of my dear friends, Alpha Tech. Was he in the gang?
He was not in the gang. Yeah, well, we made some stuff with Alpha Tech, but can't remember how the story was. No, he was not a member of that one. We did a demo here and me together once at my place, so maybe that's why they put him as a member, but it was more a corporation or something like that. That we made. He was over at my place and we made a demo that I think is lost in history, but so but yeah, no, he was not a member of the gang, but we were friends. We are all friends, and we made a demo together.
Yeah, super competent guys. I met him first time, I think, in Eskilstuna or one of the parties where he was in. I think he was sort of a new member in Bite Rapers. And people know Bite Rapers as a Finnish group, but New Age and Alpha Tech were the two sort of Swedish members at the time. Yeah. And now Sky is also in Bite Rapers, so they do have additional Swedish members. But okay. You did have a cooperation with Triangle as well. The gang
very
was nice a member Danish
of
guys.
Triangle. The gang was a member of Triangle. Triangle was a group of 3 demo groups on the Amiga. It was the gang, Beat Force 5, and it was a long time ago. So there were a C64 group called Triangle, and that's a completely different group. So they could split those two.
I'm making note, not the C64 group.
Not the C64 group, no.
Okay, because they also had an Amiga side. One of I had the cracking cartridge I was using was by Jesper Skov. It was I had an Amiga 2000, so I mean I couldn't use an action replay because they weren't available for Amiga 2000. So it's basically a memory card you can stuff, and it didn't show in the system, and then you could trigger some. Interrupt 13 or whatever it was called, and then that triggered the machine code monitor that sat in this little memory area.
Yeah.
So there was triangle. So the C64 Triangle was also on the Amiga, but we are talking about the Driffle Triangle.
Yeah, the Triangle Giga demo that we made this series that was completely different. That later formed the Phenomena actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. And Phenomena, Big A is also one of your fellow Amiga fixers, one of the guys who could fix like any computer you throw at him.
Yeah.
And the gang released stuff up until like 2019. That's sort of the most recent stuff. Is that because would you say the gang still exists, or is it sort of
exists,
faded?
But we are not very active in doing demo scene stuff except going to parties, but no real activity. I think it was at a party in Norway. They released something on the PC, my friends. We're not very active.
There is a list on thegang.nu which lists all the parties you've been going to up
Yeah,
until a
but that
certain date. I don't think it's updated recently,
no, it's
but
not.
I think we met at Datastorm, right?
I think so. Yeah, yeah, we did.
One of the other things, because I mean there are names that sort of ring bells. You were part of doing something called Time Crunch. I guess it was an Amiga Cruncher. Does that have
It's
any relation with the C64 program Time Crunch by Matcham?
no, it was just actually took the found the sources for the time crunch and made the user interface to it and made some small patches, but not much of that. So technically, I'm not that okay. It's not my proudest moments of life back young when I more or less reused the code and yeah. So
Yeah, we have all done that. Taken a tool and then changed the color scheme and then bumped the revision by one and then released it under our own names. Yeah.
yeah, so
We all
more or
have
less like
those.
that.
We all have those. But
And
it's
then
not the
well,
same. It's not the same time crunch as the C64. I guess. I guess there would
no,
have been something on the Amiga called the same.
yeah, no,
Confusing. Pick original
confusing.
names. So John, let's go into fixing Amigas. Uh, I mean, one of the things. Let's see the use case. Somebody wants to bring down their old Amiga from the attic, or they bought a new one from a flea market, or how would you say you go about that? Or could you just plug it in and test if it works, or would you say there are steps you would take before you actually put power into it?
The power supply on the Amigas is not affected the same as the C64 ones giving the wrong voltage. So I haven't seen one power supply yet that have been overvolting, but undervolting. So I say that if you find one, whatever, you plug it in and run it and see if it starts. Do not look at the power LED and bright light and it works. No, that's not the sign that it works unless the power LED brightness change after 1 second. That was what it should do, with the exception of some few Amigas, with Amiga 1000 and early Amiga 500. They will start with the power LED off and then go on after 1 second. But you see on eBay, etc., no equipment to test it, but the power light's on. That's nothing. I have made a Amiga board with not single component on and turn it on, and the LED is on. So
Okay.
not a single chip on it. So
it's not a sure sign that you have a working
no,
Amiga. You actually need to
but
hook it up
if
to
the
a monitor as well.
change, but if the brightness change, then code runs and it changes the brightness. So that's what. But anyway, turn it on and check it out. But then if it's an Amiga 1200, 600, CD32, 4000, any one of the newer ones, you must have the caps changed like 10 years ago. Same with the battery on the 2000, 3000, 4000, and more or less every Amiga with a memory card had that battery removed like 20 years ago, something like that. So there's no discussion. Battery off and recap of those surface mount versions. But it's no danger to turn it on, but do not have it turned on for too long. But you can have it like the indication of if there are issues. But if there are leakage, the electrolyte is conductive. So if you have it on too much, you can get surprises.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so then, I mean, you turn it on and it sort of works. And so it might be worth investing in doing a recap and change of batteries. So if you are doing recaps, the new caps you put in, would they be sort of future-proof, or is there a risk of them leaking in the future?
They are future-proof. I use a way higher quality on the caps now. And the fact is they are way better quality now than the caps the Commodore used. They used the cheapest possible chips. So yeah, so those I use today will maybe leak in 30, 40 years, 50 maybe. Then
Okay.
we will be gone anyway. So
Yeah, we wouldn't be around to be blamed at that time, so it
no,
should be like it's reasonably future proof. So
yeah.
and so caps and batteries, they are the two main things that can sort of they always leak eventually, right?
Yes, especially the surface mount versions that Commodore use, they will leak or they are leaking,
Yeah.
period. They
Okay.
are leaking. So I had a machine here. I did a video on YouTube some weeks ago that had never been turned on at all. Never, ever. It was from factory. And it didn't work due to leaked caps. So I had to fix it here. And so it's never been turned on and still it was leaking.
So it's not leaking because of usage, it's leaking
No.
because of age, because they are constructed in a way which is where the fluid inside sort of leaks out because of how they are constructed. So
yeah, and the leak bottom on the bottom, and then physics do the rest and sucks it around it. So yeah.
But I mean, if you look at the machine where a number of caps have been leaking and also the battery has been leaking, what is the probability of sort of all the traces being still working?
They are quite some, but problem is that they can leak afterwards anyway. So you have to really do deep cleaning and maybe all vias, the holes between the layers, etc. So sometimes actually it's better to move to a new PCB. That's why I did the Amiga series, etc. That cloning the PCBs. So you move the components and put on new passives, etc. So that can be bought new.
That means that you need to solder every component again.
Every component again, yeah.
But so if I live in Sweden, I would send my machine to you. But if I live somewhere else, is there sort of a network of fixers?
There are many people out there that does work like this. But I do work from Australia, New Zealand, USA. I sent all over the world, Russia even.
Okay. All right, but and how much money are we talking about? If I send you like an Amiga 500 standard thing, how much would that cost me?
A rebuild is quite expensive, like 300-400 euros, something like that, because it's quite many hours of work to do it. And the 500 or the 4,000 or 3,000 is more like 600 euros.
And then I have new motherboards for that price. And so new caps, new battery, new motherboard, but most of the other chips are sort of the original
The chipset is moved, yes, and some connectors, etc. Yeah.
But then you are really future-proof.
Yeah, you are.
So how many machines have you saved, such as this one?
The rebuilds, I maybe rebuilt like 70 or 100 Amiga 1200s and 40, 4,000s, etc. Recaps is maybe like 400 or 500. It's crazy.
I have a 1200 in my basement, which is fixed by you. I think you are sort of mounting a sticker or something as well, saying that you did
sometimes,
it, right?
Yeah. Sometimes, yes. I've been pretty bad on it the last years, but yeah. But I do one thing that I also always try to return the old caps in a plastic bag. And I bought 1,000 pack of those plastic bags, and I way past half of that one. So that's why I know that it's like 400 or 500, because the plastic bags are getting out. The stock is getting empty.
You always get those questions, how many did you do? And if you don't have a mechanism for counting it, you can't remember it, or at least I can't. No. People ask me how many cracks I did, and I was so focused on doing one crack, so it's not like I'm keeping records at the same time. Somebody else needed to do that. But I'd say the little plastic bag thing is an excellent way of keeping track.
Yeah, because when the machine goes out of the door, I can't remember everything. I have no no database of machines have done anything like that. No.
So, but one of the other things you are also doing is, I mean, if their machine is leaking and when you put everything on a new board and you've changed the caps and the battery and it still doesn't work, now you go into some sort of fault finding mode, right?
Yeah.
And one of the tools you have produced here is this Kickstart Diagnostic ROM. Tell me
Yeah,
about that
diagram.
one.
Yeah. I was tired of trying to find issues sometimes when the machine doesn't boot. What's wrong with it? I could see that it's running some code from Kickstart because maybe you can see that it tries to start up. So then I got this idea to make a diagnostic tool. But then before coding this one, there was actually another tool called Dialogica or something like that. So I tested that one, but it lacked the manual. No one had the manual. This was some software that you could buy when you were a service center or something like that. But I found a manual for version 2, but we all had version 3. And also one machine just gave me some random color screen on screen, but I didn't know what does it mean, as we didn't have the manual. So that's why actually I started to code my own. So I started diagram there, and the idea of diagram is that it should work on as dead machine as possible. So I don't rely on interrupts. I don't rely on anything like that. That can be quite challenging to do code without anything like that, especially when I put on anything on the serial port on the Amiga, and the Amiga serial port is extremely crappy. And it also relies heavily on IRQ support, and I opted out to not have it in diagram at all because, yeah. But the idea there was it should run on as bad broken machine as possible. And then you can do tests of IRQs, everything, so you can find where the issue is. And that's why I did it. And that's why I also found the issue of that machine that broke on the Dialogica machine. It was actually that it wanted an IRQ to run, and Dialogica required that one. So it was a color code on screen instead of telling on screen or something like it's broken. So yeah, that's why I started to code diagram, and apparently it helped quite a lot of people saving Amigas as well. So
well, I'm sure there is a need for a manual for this one as well. We have talked about this. I watched this Adrian's Digital Basement, and he's trying one machine, and it seems like he's sort of interpreting the output of the Kickstart ROM here wrong, right?
He does, yeah. In the beginning, it detects memory, and it took it for a real memory check. And it's not the memory check. Just check the memory there. Is this block writable? Yes. And then it assumes that the rest 64Ks is okay, and then tries another one. It doesn't do any real tests. Just do a bit test and everything. And if it's an error there, it will say that bit 5 or whatever is wrong. And he took it like a complete memory test, and ironically enough, it's later in the software there is a memory test that does a more in-depth memory test. So he did that error, and also another time I remember that he made something and he said, "Oh, there are some ROM checksum here. It says red, some red and green. I don't know what it is." And the line above that says red error, green is okay. They didn't even read on the screen. So yeah, manual can be good, but you actually should read on the screen as well.
Adrian, RTFM, RTFM.
Yeah, or RTFS.
So, and you're working on a dead machine, and you've done recap, you've done the preparation, you probably even swapped the PCB. How do you go about? What would be the next steps for you to sort of mitigate? What is typically broken?
Usually it is actually something on the PCB. It's usually not the chipset actually. It's not very often chips that die. So usually it's resistor or something that's bad, or actually cap leakage that have damaged the trace or a via. That's the most common issue, and that's why if you move it to a new PCB, it works. I even once tested it by having a 1200 that was stone dead. I moved everything, including all resistors, everything, and it started to work on the new PCB. So it was clearly a PCB error. So I think that's the most common one. It's hard to find. And if the PCB is in good condition, I would recommend still to put the effort in trying to have the original board working. Because it's some feeling to have an original board as well. But having a board that have heavy corrosion and everything, it's not worth the time to try to repair it, and it boots, and then maybe 1 year later it will die anyway because of more leakage that are crawling slowly on the board.
So a balance, if it's reasonably fit, you could fix it on the original board, but if you see leakage, then you would suggest swapping the board for a new one. Yeah,
then I suggest a move to a new PCB.
Yeah, makes total sense. But I mean, are you coding on the Amiga as well, or are you mainly doing hardware by now?
Diagram is coded by me.
Yeah, sure.
So I'm coding on well, technically now I'm coding in Visual Code on my PC and cross-compile it. That most of coders does today.
Any smart person uses a big system where you can have Git and Subversion or one of the revision handling, full editor with unlimited undo levels and color highlighting and all of that.
Yeah.
If you don't use that, you are making it so difficult for yourself for no benefit.
First version of Diagram actually was in SM Pro on the Amiga, but I now moved doing version 2 that's done in Visual Code. It's so much more easy to code, and now I can also use C that I couldn't use that, so I can use a mix of both languages. Okay. So
one more question around the diagram. Are you using some kind of harness, or could you validate the ports as well?
There are some harnesses. They are actually, when you do a parallel port test, there are actually information how to do a port that you plug in the parallel port. So you can test the bits, etc. Same with the serial port, etc. So they are a harness. Yes, but it's not required. But yeah, for ports, you need one.
I mean, on the C64...
I have some ideas of next time.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I have ideas of next time doing a Raspberry Pi, something that you can connect to a Raspberry Pi that can talk to the Amiga, even if it's even more dead. To have some response, you can maybe see if the CPU is working, but maybe the chipset is not working. That we maybe can probe what's wrong with it. But they are in the idea stage right now.
Yeah, on the diagnostic cartridge on the C64, I mean, to validate the keyboard and so mainly the CIA chips and all the ports, you basically need a harness. But otherwise, it's the test is only sort of half done. All right. Are you selling? I mean, I don't know super many people having an EPROM burner that could burn that size of a chip. I could only burn C64 chips, the 27 whatever.
They are available on eBay for nothing.
Okay.
The TL866 or something like that. They are, they go for nothing more or less.
So the burner and then the chips are also cheap. Super.
Yeah, they are. So
these chips are cheap, but what about the others? I mean, what about the availability of chips for the Amiga? Are there any sort of hard currency chips that are difficult to get hold of?
There are some. You can still buy some of them new from icomp.ed and Analogica or something like that. But they are expensive, really expensive. And some chips like the Super DMAC is not available at all. I I sold one on eBay for a while ago for 300 euros, and people screamed that it was so cheap.
Well, if the chip
Well,
costs
yeah,
more
so
than a new machine, there is no point because then it's easier to get a new machine. But is
but
there
this
any
chip
new
is a
production?
VMA controller. There are some new replicas being worked on.
Oh,
So there are FPGA versions of there will be FPGA version of the Super DMAC and I think Diagnostic and etc. So there are people working on, like on the C64 there with CD etc.
to be honest,
So
I
yeah,
think on the
people are working.
C64, most of the chips are now available in sort of alternative versions. It's just so that people working on it always get the good idea that they would like to make improvements. So if they make an improvement to the VIC chip, they want to add new graphics modes and stuff like that. Like, why? No, please don't.
This is why I, for example, doesn't like the vampire card. I think the main thing you should do is making as one-to-one copy as
Mm,
possible.
mm.
Then maybe do changes and have two versions of it, one original and one improved. But to add stuff extra, you add incompatibility per
Yeah,
definition.
yeah,
As we all know that people code those machines not as documented, but as found.
yeah.
So yeah, you can't really trust stuff. And be honest, most Amiga coders back in the day, and even 64 coders, were not that mature. So rules are not to be followed, meaning they poked in memory addresses that you shouldn't, and maybe those extras suddenly triggers something. So I'm no. And why? Do you think the 64 or Amiga will be the new PC? No, not happen. So I mean,
No,
why?
no. No, I really don't see the point. I mean, fixing machines so people could work on the machine. For me, the main thing is the community. But of course, if the community is supposed to survive, we need to have emulators, we need to have cross compilers, we need to have fixed real machines and stuff like that. So we can continue doing it within the community. Because again, for me, the people, we are the real important part. The machines just support our hobby and.
Yeah, it is.
So if I want my Amiga to be faster, let's say I have an Amiga 1200, what's your recommendation or any insights in what I should get and how I should make my Amiga super fast?
As I'm involved in the Turbo Fire project card, so I would say Turbo Fire 1260, 060 accelerator, or 1230 if 030 is enough for you.
Yeah.
They are a good price and a good performance. No fancy graphics mode or anything like that. Then you need a more expensive card like the Warp 1260.
Mm.
PyStorm, interesting card. I like it. It's not my cup of tea, but I understand people using it, and it's quite a good thing, I think. But that's software emulation of the CPU with all the pros and cons of emulating the
Mm.
060 or 040. It does a job quite good, but yeah, it's not really my thing. But yeah, it's a good thing if you want to have anything for a quite low amount of money.
Right, but I mean, getting a new 060, that's tricky, isn't it? They are also really short in supply, right?
It's not short supply. I can get some 100 of them if I want to, but they are over 340 euros each.
Yeah.
So, and when I buy them, I have to buy them in pack of 10.
Mm.
So it's quite a lot of money. So I'm not sure if I dare to buy more of them due to, I mean, way over 3,400 euros is quite a bunch of money to
Yeah.
pay.
Yeah.
So, but there are possibility to get them, but the people in China know it now, and they know that people pay for it.
Mm.
So, and they want to make money. So that's why the price is high. Demand is high, the price is high. But the price has actually been lowering now slightly because of the demand is less now.
But I mean, is there any probability of making a replica 060, or I mean, not an emulated one, but like a real one?
It's a 2 million transistors, 2.4 million transistors in the 060. It's quite hard chip to do, but I think there are people working ideas of it. But I think it's a version of software/hardware emulation in the end, because it's quite a big project. The Vampire have some kind of it in FPGA, but yeah, we don't know how it's done really and what original data. There been quite a story there about that it might not be all original data used, etc. So yeah, but let's not go into that project now.
Okay, that sounded interesting though, but but Vampires, they are short in supply as well, right? Because they're not making for every new order, and
no, the FPGAs are available now, what I know about, but I think the interest of the Vampire cards have been dropping since the PyStorm. People that do not care about the real deal. I think most of them doesn't care if it's FPGA or ARM CPU doing emulation. So why pay 500 euros when you can get a PyStorm for I think it's 150 euros something with PyStorm. So why spend extra money for that?
Yeah, I see the point. But I mean, is how many times the original speed can you get out of a PyStorm then?
Actually, I don't know. It's way faster than the original 060 for sure. It is. I mean, when you boot up just UAE on Raspberry Pi, is way quicker than any 060 on the Amiga anyway. So it should be about that same speed. Actually, maybe somewhat higher, as you don't need to use CPU time to emulate the chipset. You can remove that one and use that extra CPU time to actually boost more CPU speed. So it should be approximately the same as a Raspberry Pi UAE.
Cool. Are you using emulators, or I mean, of course you cannot fix hardware on the emulator, but I mean, when you're messing with your Amiga, are you using the real deal always, or are you cheating with emulators?
When coding Java, it's done more or less in an emulator all the time. So I do tweak my code to simulate errors. Sometimes maybe I've done changes in the emulator to simulate errors, but so that's why. But when I use Amiga, then I start my Amigas. Yes, I do that mostly.
Super, John. Much appreciated that you took the time, and I will have links to the gang.nu and your WordPress at hertell.nu and your references to your profiles in Demozoo and Exotica. And if people would like to fix the errors in Demozoo, feel free. Now you've been given a bit of information that you can base fixes on.
Yeah.
And John, I mean, people can contact you via your WordPress, I guess, if they have questions around an Amiga that they would like to have fixed.
Yeah, or just send a mail at chucky@thegang.nu.
Yeah. Super, John. Very much thanks. We have planned this for, I guess, 6 months, and eventually we managed to do it.
Oof,
yes. I have been nagging for a long time, and I've also promised not to mention a slightly embarrassing interview in Dator magazine, and much of that was due to the reporter kind of filling in data of stuff you didn't say. So that's why I don't want to mention it more, and and put it at the end, because nobody watches the end of the video anyway. So
no.
Super, John. Thanks, and hope to meet you when we have a big cross party in Sweden, sometimes in the very near future.
Yeah, it should be one soon, I hope. Yeah.
Super.
Yeah.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you. Bye.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
FairLight.